it is.
Here we are.
Here we are. It took me a minute to find the button. Sorry, folks. Welcome on in. It's another Unauthorized Caucus.
It's caucus time.
It is caucus time, and we have got a little bit of we've got a doozy already. I already got email replies just from the notification about the headline. People who were antagonistic, to which we remind each other, questions work.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys, guess what? Questions work. So if we ask a question in the headline, never assume that you know the answer we're going to give, because we're unpredictable.
We are.
But anyway, welcome on in. It's Thursday. It's noon. It's caucus time. This is live. Tomorrow the podcast will come out on Friday. Make sure you're subscribed to our Substack, unauthorizedcaucus.com. We are your hosts, Ryan and Mason.
And Mason.
I never know. We have no rehearsal for these things. Oh, man.
But that is why you tune in, because you don't get a bunch of prepackaged,
Right. You're getting an authentic discussion.
Scripted, here's exactly how I do it. This is unpolished. It's always diamonds in the rough on Unauthorized Caucus.
Diamonds in the rough. Remember, we could platinum in the rough, palladium in the rough, whatever precious metal we're into this week.
Diamonds aren't a metal.
I know, but that's why I'm going into precious metals. Diamonds, no. You don't care about diamonds. I don't stack anyway.
He clearly never played Minecraft.
I'm not a Minecrafter. What can I say? I got it. I never got into
Different
it.
generation.
I just don't have patience for video games, and I even grew up with video games. I just don't. I have more patience for books, and we talk a lot about those, and we obviously have an affinity for books here in this office.
Mm-hmm. I hadn't noticed them, actually. This is the first time I've turned around.
I need another room like this, actually. If I could dedicate a room in the house, we could probably close to replicate this at this point. So
yeah.
Anyway, welcome on in, folks. Let me see. Do we have any housekeeping that we need to take care of?
No, I don't think so. I think this is one of those rare weeks where we can just jump into it.
Just jump into it. Let's jump into it first. Thank you to our sponsor, T-Rex Inc. Caucus 30 is your promo code there. We'll talk about them a little bit later on, but they've got hats this week. Hats came in and they look pretty dope. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. I'm excited. I got a couple that I got to order. I still have a t-shirt I meant to order that I forgot to. So
yeah.
Caucus 30, trexinc.com. Go and say thank you for supporting this show. Mm-hmm. But, that's what I was going to say. So I don't know what you did with your week. I got to go see the Reagan movie last night. It's really good.
Yeah?
Yeah. The Reagan movie that just came out, Dennis Quaid. It's been looming for several years. They've been trying to get it going. It is well worth seeing. Of course, it's also based on a book called The Crusader by a friend of ours, Paul Kenger. Paul's still on faculty out at Grove City College. Great writer, huge Reagan historian, and a really, really good person who understands communism and its effects and the tools. So a lot of that shone through in the movie, and I know all of Hollywood, and I saw the most ridiculous article on Slate, how terrible it is. It even makes caricatures look bad, good.
Yeah.
They hate it so much. But it's because someone's actually produced a truthful message about Hollywood communists and the communists themselves over in the Soviet Union and everything. It's very good.
And now there's a Trump biopic coming out next month, I think.
I heard that.
Which that's probably just going to be a total smear job. But I already know that, X does its thing. It doesn't matter if it's a total smear job. Like we're going to take it and we're going to be like, look how cool our guy is, you know, and just yes to all of it. And in the media literacy, people will freak out and we will laugh at them because that is the most fun part.
It's true. By the way, another upcoming. We've talked about this, floating the idea, folks. We'll see if we can put it together. But I'm curious. We may do some sort of unauthorized caucus watch party later in the year for "Am I Racist?" It was Matt Walsh's new film coming out. We did something like that around the Eagle World for "What Is a Woman," and it was fantastically fun to watch something like that. It was kind of it made the funnier moments more funny, and it also made the really depressing heaviness of the whole thing a little bit lighter to be able to do it together. We may do that with "Am I Racist?" because I'm quite excited. That hits theaters next week, but we'll see when it comes out.
And I need to figure it out.
I don't know. Yeah. Apparently Matt Walsh doesn't either, and we're gonna journey through this with him. I'm excited about that. But there you go, Reagan movie, worth your time if you get a chance to see it, and also go buy Paul Kenger's book, The Crusader. In fact, we might have him on at some point because there's a couple the interesting connections of communism, of where we are now and understanding it as a tool, not just some historical mythological thing, but a real tool that's used is very important to all of us. So, but today, is the 2024 election rigged?
Or is it rigged already?
Is it rigged already?
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Is it
rigged
too
now?
late? Is it
too
the
late?
rigging?
And let me pose the question, and then I want you to dive in and start answering first. I see so much stuff. I mean, we know that the 2020 and the 2016 election, and this is why they were won by very few votes. Joe Biden had this huge astronomical number of popular votes that millions and millions that we know didn't happen legitimately, but they came out of blue states where it didn't affect the electoral college map. The real results of 2020 and 2016 both were decided by less than 100,000 votes in a few key counties and states. That was the actual margin of victory, which is both terrifying because it only takes that many votes to actually swing the election one direction or the other, but also exciting because then you realize, oh, well, that's the only
Those are
that's
the
vote
fights.
tally.
Yeah.
That's the vote tally that we have to come up with. Okay, let's go. But it has been very interesting because as much as we get good information out of Pennsylvania with voter registration numbers, or someone is suing and taking to task Arizona, GOP in Nevada is taking people to task, trying to get voter registration numbers up for Republicans, voter rolls cleaned up, which just leaves tens of thousands, if not more, dead people, moved out of state people. These are all good things happening, and then Michigan's Secretary of State, the Wisconsin Elections Commission, get in and tinker about, no, RFK has to stay on the ballot. You see all these things, and it kind of it leaves you in this state of, are they actually going to let Trump win? And I say let as if they have the power, but right now the deep state, this group of people who exist to, exalt only themselves and keep themselves in power, they wield a lot of it. So the question is, do they wield enough to actually already essentially rig or put in the fix for the 2024 election? What do you think?
Yeah, well, so if we look at 2020, I think the vector for rigging was much more clear. The mail-in ballots made it much easier to do the ballot stuffing and to rig the election. But this election cycle, and we talked about this a little bit the other day, this election cycle has really made clear to me that it's like our friend of the show, Charles Haywood, said, that these people are incompetent. Like, these people are extremely incompetent. The regime is filled with not the best and not the brightest. The best and the brightest are on X, posting interesting things and reading interesting things and, creating new systems there. But it's the theater kids in the government that, were really good at shaking hands and doing interviews. And now those are the people running things. Or not even that, just DEI hires. They're there as well. And it was very clear to me when they let Biden debate Trump that these people they're not masterminds. They're not doing the 4D chess. They are not in control of the situation. Like, because sometimes we get a little too conspiracy minded and we think, okay, well, there's some sort of like monolithic control over American society. And there is the deep state. The deep state does exist, but I think the deep state is multiple nexuses of power that sometimes do clash with one another, as well as, say, globalists. There's not just one like group of globalists. There's multiple globalist nexuses of power that in a lot of situations are in lockstep with one another, but in a lot of other ones, they clash with one another. And we hate all of them anyway. We hate the deep state, we hate the globalists, et cetera, et cetera. But these people are not, ultimate masterminds that are completely in control of the situation. And I think that was really clear by what happened with Biden and Trump. That was a disaster. And some people were saying, oh, this is 4D chess. They're throwing him to the wolves so they can replace him with somebody else. But then there was a very clear clash right after that where Biden just endorsed Harris to be the next presidential nominee, which I don't think that's what Obama wanted. I think Obama had other people in mind to be the next nominee for the Democratic Party.
There definitely was some, as much as it looked like a bit of a plan, like the media turned on him instantly.
Yeah,
the moment the debate was over.
Plan.
There was partly I don't know if you'd call it a plan, but it was definitely coordinated at certain levels. But there was so much infighting afterward, at least that seemed to seep through to the public.
Right.
It was definitely a mix of both.
Right. But just because there's coordination doesn't mean there's ultimate coordination that has prepared for every eventuality and that they are in like total control of our reality. They're not. So that makes me think that these people are not going to be able to get away with rigging the 2024 election as easily as they did the 2020 election because there's no COVID, so there's not as much mail-in ballots going on.
Have the mail-in ballots actually been stripped back? In a lot of the key states, they're still doing it.
Yeah, but the percentages are down.
They are, which is
a lot.
That's one of the ones I wanted to point out. One of the ones I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, and so Ryan and I were talking the other day about why are they trying to keep RFK on the ballot in these different states? stuff like that seems to me more like they're pulling out all the stops because they don't have one big stop that they can pull out to win this. They're pulling out all the stops now. They're trying everything because there's not a clear and coherent path to victory. And I really do wonder if they're just throwing in the towel because all the polls we're looking at are bogus. The election betting odds are bogus. Trump is going to win. I think he's going to win by a lot.
And that's the thing. The polls are, polling numbers are phony, but the trend lines you can actually pick stuff up from. Every single state is trending more to the right than they were 4 years ago, and then that was more to the right than they were 4 years ago. A lot of these key swing states are moving that direction, and this is even the liberal polling. As much as they can hide it, you can still see the trend line marching toward the right. So to me, this indicates, if this is the best they can do, if the best they could give Kamala Harris was less than a month of a bump in the polling, and now it's kind of already swung back the other direction, these are so grossly off. They were in 2016, they were in 2020. They're all push polls. Polling is made to push public opinion a certain direction, not to reflect public opinion. We all know this. But even the polls are having a hard time hiding some of the really growing areas for Trump in some of the states where he's just really pushing and zooming ahead. I mean, you can see glimmers of it here and there. And the betting markets actually, I think, are probably a little bit more genuine than the actual pollster polling because there's people with real money on the line. I would argue that is a little bit of a different ballgame than people who are getting asked leading questions and have the silent factor. Even still, all of it's out. But so let me ask you this then. So we look at it. You brought it up. Pennsylvania is great. Pennsylvania is a very good example because they are registering, and let me see if I can pull these numbers up again. They're registering people like crazy in Pennsylvania, but the point that you just brought up, the mail-in ballot requests, because you have to request a mail-in ballot in Pennsylvania, whereas in other places like Nevada, it just shows up. Like we just send it out. California does a lot of the same thing. But here's one of the things. So when it comes to the numbers, let me bring this down. Both Republicans and Democrats are down from 2020 mail-in ballot requests, which you would expect. Fewer people are doing mail-in ballots because it's not a COVID year. People aren't worried about going out, but the numbers are not going down at the same rate. And this is interesting because here we get into this whole statistician thing, which I am not, and it's interesting to try to figure out for me since I'm looking at this for the first time. But as Republicans are losing 6 or 7%, they're down from the mail-in ballot requests in 2020 to now. Democrats are down like 12 to 13, almost twice as much, which is not just the normal, attrition from, I'm going to show up at the polls again this year to vote. That's a demoralizing factor of they're just not requesting as many ballots early. And early ballots is where Democrats win. Election day voting is where Republicans win. Traditional knowledge, and it's actually true. That's very interesting to see the demoralization of that. And I think that Kamala Harris as the candidate, Tim Walz as the VP, are demoralizing Pennsylvania and have something to do with that. The policies are demoralizing the working class in Pennsylvania, and that has something to do with it. It seems to be a lot of factors that when you look at it, it really does, it's very interesting to see what's going on. And by the way, this is interesting to me, as a whole. It's fascinating that it's really a reminder, states are the ones who run the elections, even if it's a federal elections. States are the ones running it. So it's not like there's some big federal, even though there is a deep state, it's not like there's some big federal bureaucracy that is, tinkering with every single one of these things. There are some agencies and different things that are happening, but you're looking at state by state, which is why there's, you can go into a state and affect change at a state level. It gets really interesting. But so, let me ask you this. For, places that aren't cleaning up the voter rolls, like Texas. Texas numbers should be a lot better this year because how many did they just remove from the voting rolls in Texas?
There's a lot.
It was almost 7 figures, if I'm not mistaken. It was closing in on 7
Whoever
figures.
texted me about that texted me about it first thing in the morning, so I don't exactly remember what the number was.
I think it was close to 1 million people, though. But, Texas just did a massive cleanup of voter rolls, which, at the end of the day, if you want to clean up the electoral system, I agree with all of and tell me what you think about this, Mason. I agree with all of the propositions. Yes, we should have paper ballots. Yes, we should have single-day voting. Fine, maybe some excuse absentee voting for a week or two before I get it. You have a 12-hour shift or something, you're not going to make it. But we should have single-day voting generally. We should have paper ballots. We should have no early voting. There shouldn't be mail-in balloting. It should be in person. You shouldn't be able to deliver it absentee unless you're an immediate family. All the different things. But if we don't clean up the voter rolls first, this is the low-hanging fruit that will eliminate a lot of the problems to begin with. Honestly, ballot harvesting, mail-in balloting is a whole different ball of wax to deal with if you've cleaned up your voter rolls. There aren't tens of thousands of dead people or non-residents here anymore, or illegal voters who shouldn't be voting because they're not citizens to begin with. That is step number one, and I'm really starting to see the conservative movement actually hook onto that. True the Vote, PA Chase, a bunch of people, Kash Patel's folks out in Nevada, the Nevada GOP, hooking on to we must clean up voter rolls. I don't have to push for new legislation for photo ID. Yes, photo ID is a good thing. But if we can clean up the voter rolls, that's this huge step forward, and then we can keep asking for more. But that one, who could argue against it?
Right.
I mean, logically, they will, but who could argue against it?
Right. We should not
Is that happening enough places? Good for Texas. The Texas numbers will be better. But what if they don't get it done in Nevada? Nevada has, what, 28,000 dead, supposedly 28,000 dead non-resident voters or folks who shouldn't be voting, illegal voters now. And they're shipping in more all the time and just adding them to the voter rolls. Is it enough?
Yeah, well, I'm not sure if it's enough, but what I do know is that this is stuff that we can actually have an impact on. Because right now, Colonel John Mills is a friend of the Eagles. He's spoken at quite a few of our events. I think he's speaking at one of our Pennsylvania events this week, right? Or is that next week? Sometime soon. But he has a great book called War Against the Deep State, and the book, big parts of it are a how-to guide about what you can do on the local level, like you as an individual, how you can impact politics and actually push back the influence of the deep state on the local level. And it's a great book because he's drawing on his personal experiences as well as just what he's learned. And it's important to be very knowledgeable and be very respectful. But as long as you're both of those things and you're not coming in like some crazy partisan that's like, the lizard people in the deep state, we need to keep them out of the county. Like, no, don't be like that. But if you are calm and you are direct and you are knowledgeable and you're not throwing wild accusations, you can go into these, he lists, I think, 12 different nexuses of power on the community level. You can actually go into these places and talk to people and be like, oh, well, the rules say this, or you can talk to the people in charge of the voter rolls, which is the county registrar. I'm pretty sure might have a different name in different states, but the registrar is the person in charge of the voter rolls. So you can go to that office and you can say, hey, what's with the voter rolls? Like, what do they look like? Are there a lot of extra people? Can I help? Is there something I can do to help get these voter rolls more accurate to who should actually be registered to vote? That's something you can do, and I think that's something that's important to do, especially if you live in swing states. If you live in Nevada, if you live in Georgia, if you live in Pennsylvania, you should go do these things. So is it enough? I don't know, but it won't be enough if nobody does anything about it. So we can't just sit on our hands, We're in Missouri, where that's not as big of a concern. The state is going red unless they commit some atrocious fraud. But there are things you can do. You can also be a poll watcher. This is something Phyllis Schlafly wrote about, that at every polling station, there's you as a Republican are entitled to be a poll watcher, as well as one representative from the other side, a Democrat poll watcher. You are entitled to be there and to make sure everything is going smoothly. You as just a regular citizen, I don't care who you are, you can do it. That's something you're allowed to do. You're allowed to impact change on the local level in ways that have consequences on the national level. So don't, if you really care about this, being a Twitter warrior is a lot of fun. Being a Facebook warrior is a lot of fun, but there's a lot more impact to be made by just taking a day or two, a weekday or two, to go talk to these people and figure out what's going on. And who knows, you might learn things. You might learn ways where you can make a big impact. Yeah, I mean, there's ways to do this. You look up who works in the county government, how to talk to these people, where their offices are. Like they're probably within 15 minutes of you, so you can go do that.
You can, absolutely. And honestly, this is one of the big things as we're looking through. There are places that give tools for this, and this is why this whole conversation. Just to back up here before we move in anything further. So much of this, the left The leftist propaganda machine is in full effect, in full force, swinging at everything possible. But the reality is, there is no real polling or survey that represents what's going to happen in November. None of them are genuine for the most part. I mean, any of them that are being done genuinely just don't have a big enough sample size to really show what's going on. They don't know how to reach out to people. And what's going to be really interesting about that is that some of these things Trump has been doing that have really shifted towards young eyes that are viewing this, and when I say young, I mean that coveted 18 to 34 category. I mean, going on and doing all the interviews like he's done, Aiden Ross, Theo Vaughn, Lex Friedman, all of these different folks, this is a very different crowd. These are not the people that the pollsters are calling. Even the ones who are trying to do a good representation, these aren't the likely voters. So it really is a massive, I mean, Trump has just reached out to millions upon millions of wild cards. And those folks, well, first of all, they're going to respond to people who they like. They're going to respond to people who go on the shows that they like. And Kamala Harris isn't. And she can't. She can't even do a CNN canned interview.
Right.
Like it comes across so terribly.
She was begging influencers to let her go on for an interview and like to pay them a lot of money, and they're like, no, we don't want you.
She just has the Hollywood, child molestation complex. Like these people are behind her because they'll come and show up and do concerts from the music industry and actors and everything. But other than that, like it seems that a lot of the modern influencer world are kind of toast on her because she's terrible at this, and Trump is surging ahead. But that's why that whole section of voters, prospective voters that are not typical voters, Trump is reaching them, and that is a massive wild card. Looking at those factors tells me he's coming in landslide fashion. Now, let me ask you what landslide really means to you, because and then I want to give some people some really specific places to go. First, though, before we do, let's take a quick break and say thank you to our fantastic sponsor, T-Rex Inc. I need to update this little video montage that we have. If you're looking up here in this wonderful corner over here, you'll see a lot of their stuff going by.
That way? Yeah, it's towards you.
Great, it is. Yeah. Great Trump swag, great historical swag, great God, faith, family, country swag. You will not want to miss out. Mugs, apparel, again, hats now. I got to get some of those. We're going to share some of them today so that you can see what's going on, because there's some great stuff over there. Use Caucus 30. Get you a big whopping 30% off, the biggest discount they offer, and it lets them know that you came from Unauthorized Caucus. Say thank you to them for sponsoring the program. We appreciate them. Couldn't do this without them, and looking forward to that relationship as it continues to build. TRexInc.com. They're also on Instagram. They're on Truth. They're on Facebook. They're all over. Good folks. So you want to make sure you head on over and get your cool stuff. Use your promo code, get a discount. Big things. Let me dive into this. So, yes, it's states, not the federal level. Yes, it's even a lot of local stuff where you can show up. But let me ask you this, and now this is all of my filler words to try to remember where I was about to go before we did our little T-Rex preview.
You wanted to talk about what a landslide is.
Yeah, that's right. I was just thinking, I'm like, popular vote, electoral vote. What do you think when Trump wins in November? Part of me wants to say landslide. But then I also look at that and I go, well, what do I mean by that? Because I don't think that ever again any presidential candidate will get like a Reagan 84 or a Nixon 72 style landslide electoral on the map. That's not going to happen, I don't believe, ever again, because of the abject polarization we have of so many different places. What do you think a landslide actually looks like or means? We're talking about popular vote?
I'm thinking 300 electoral votes.
That's the new definition of a landslide?
I think so.
I kind of would tend to agree with you. Because a squeaker is really that 270 to 290. If you can get over 300, that means you solidly delivered a few key states. Which, I mean, as we know at this point, it's down to about 5 key states. You've got Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, maybe Georgia. Like these really are the states that we're talking about where the vote is probably going to swing the election, depending on who wins those 5 or how many of them. But I mean, there's some, you look at if Georgia and North Carolina go his way, he doesn't have to win all the usuals and some of these others. He's got a pretty strong case. It's very interesting to see. So you think a landslide now would mean 300 plus electoral votes?
Yeah.
Do you think a conservative, or even just to back it up even further, do you think a Republican could ever win the national popular, not the national but the popular vote? Do you think a Republican could ever win the popular vote ever again, or is it just too lopsided with giant cities centered in blue states? Well, excuse me, red states that are controlled by blue cities. I wonder.
Yeah.
And I mean in the near future, not like in 50 to 100 years. Who knows what the political landscape
I don't know.
looks good.
Maybe not. Maybe not. I really don't know.
I'm not sure, because we are so divided, and it really is just wild to me to watch some of the man on the street interviews.
Well, are you saying Republicans as in like Republicans generally, or like Republicans including Trump? Because I think Trump, yes. I think
you think Trump could win a popular vote in America?
Yeah, and I think he probably will.
Do you think he did? Well, I guess. Do you think he did in 2020? I think so.
Yeah, I think so.
I tend to say so.
Come on, Joe Biden got like record.
I think he did in 2020. I agree with you. And again, they pumped up all these votes. Joe Biden didn't win the election by X number of million votes. 70. What was it? Trump had 75. Mm-hmm. Joe Biden had 81. Joe Biden didn't win by 6 million votes. Joe Biden won by 54,000. Was it 54,000 votes? I think it was. Let me pull this up. Actually, by the way, you can go and look through this. This is, in fact, not that hard to find. You can even get to it on places like the New York Times. Maybe I got rid of this, or the AP too. But they were talking about how this is really the 2020 election was decided by about 54,000 votes in Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. Maybe one other state. 2016, that was decided by only about 77,000 votes. Donald Trump won by 77,000 votes. Those are the numbers that would have flipped the Electoral College one direction or the other. Not this 6 million number. These votes came out of California and New York. No one cares. They didn't change the electoral map at all. But they inflated Joe Biden's total. So I actually don't believe he beat Donald Trump, because Trump got more, 2020, Donald Trump 2020, 75 million votes. That was more votes than any Republican presidential candidate had ever received in history. Was it any candidate, or was it just besides Obama?
Let me look it up. Obama.
That's what we're looking at.
2012, because Trump got 62 million in 2016 and Clinton got 65 million. Obama got 65 million in 2012, which I imagine that 2008 was probably lower.
In 2009 he got 69 million to McCain's 59 million.
Okay, so yeah, Trump and Biden had record-breaking numbers.
And in 2004, 60, which again, the population is growing by, both by birth and by immigration and everything else, naturalization. But I mean,
right. Well, and there's kind of a lag with like the population growing versus like when everybody's aged in to be able to vote.
Right.
Because I didn't vote I couldn't even vote in 2016.
Yeah, you're right. Whatever it is, it's fascinating to look at. And again, George W. Bush won the popular vote in 2004, but that was the first time a Republican had won the popular vote since Reagan. Which I say that, I mean, it had been a couple of decades, even though it was only a few presidential administrations. No, I take that back. I'm sorry, George H.W. Bush, if I'm remembering, in 1988, he was against the caucus, and he won the popular vote as well. So it's very, that's the thing, though. That was the 1980s. A lot has changed since then, culturally. A lot has changed since then with the deep state, what they're willing to do, the hand that they have revealed. It is going to be, I think, we know this is the most consequential election we've ever faced. This is going to be, politically speaking, one of the most fascinating elections we've ever faced. Because, I mean, if Trump is going to pull record numbers again, and like you said, none of us believe Joe Biden pulled those numbers. This is...
Yeah, 81, like, that's unbelievable. 81 million versus, like... Joe Snoozefest Biden, first black president ever, got less than 70 million when he was first elected. And you're telling me that Joe Snoozefest Biden got 12 million more than that.
But see, folks, think about this. We're talking about the Electoral College results. So in 2016, Donald Trump won with 304 Electoral College votes. And then in 2020, Joe Biden won with 306 Electoral College votes. So it is really, we haven't had a landslide greater than that, victory. I mean, Barack Obama got 332 because he pulled the Rust Belt, and he pulled Virginia, and he pulled Florida. Now, no Democrat's ever going to win Florida again at this rate. So that's a big change, a big boost. Of course, as it moves, Obama the first time got 365. Florida's flip has changed the electoral map significantly, which is why I say I don't think we'll ever have. The new landslide definition is 300. Truly, it is because of Florida's flip. There's just no way to get past 330, 340 anymore, unless it's just bonkers town. Everyone's going for it.
Yeah,
so
if New York flips, that'd be pretty huge.
And see, there's another New York
I
flips.
think New York could flip. I've been saying this. I might be insane for saying that, but
they're not going to let it
happen.
happen.
I've been saying this.
They're not going to let that one happen.
We'll see.
Yeah, they're not going to let that one happen. I mean, if that flips, though, if New York flips, then there you're looking at a 330, 330 to 350 again is quite possible.
Yeah.
See, and this, this is fascinating, and this is what makes this so cool. Can we just take a pause and have a Phyllis Schlafly appreciation moment?
Okay.
Fighting the national popular vote movement, there is the lowercase national popular vote, then uppercase NPV, the movement to abolish the Electoral College, is such a stupid idea. It flabbergasts me that people still talk about it. Because, again, looking at these maps then becomes every single state that is, the size that many of our states are becomes irrelevant. In fact, some of the big states become irrelevant. It's literally just 5, 6, 7 big cities that will get visits from presidential candidates and nowhere else ever again. That's all they need is the big city vote. No one wants that. Not the Occupy Wall Street Democrats, not the radical socialists, shut the crony capitalists down, not you and me, the grassroots conservatives. No one wants that. That would just really literally make presidential elections about the easiest thing in the world to rig, is if we move to that. This is fascinating, though, to look at the switching of electoral colleges, because as each state changes, that changes the map in such a more significant way. It really is impressive, this system that we've built that was given to us 250 years ago now. Well, not quite 250 years ago. The Constitution, so 220 years ago. It's amazing. It really is amazing. And it still works today, and it has great significance when one state flips. I mean, Missouri hasn't been blue since, 1996? The last time Missouri went blue, but Florida has gone back and forth until just recently. It's really only the last 2 presidential elections has Florida just been a solid red entity. And Florida cleaned up their voter rolls, by the way. So it's never going to happen again.
It makes a big difference.
Texas cleaning up their voter rolls gives me great faith that it will not become the next Colorado, which Colorado didn't used to be blue. It used to flip, here and there. But
now weed's legal, so that does a number.
It does indeed a number. By the way, it is fun. If you if you want to look further into this stuff, especially if you've got kids, you're doing homeschool stuff yourself, jumping into it, going to 270towin.com is cool because you can flip the map around yourself, but you can also see historical presidential elections. And the fun part about that is you see this red and blue going back and forth until all of a sudden 1968, you say, wait a minute, why the heck is there yellow? Well, that's because there was George Wallace, an independent that actually won this swath of southern states. And then you get back even farther into the 1912 regions and you see a lot more yellow back into the 80s. And then all of a sudden, different states start to gray out because they weren't states. These maps go all the way back to 1789. And it's kind of cool to see that progression, in map form. So they've got some neat historical data, plus you can tinker with the map with what-if situations. At the end of the day, I think it is a Trump landslide. That's the answer to the question. The question is it already rigged? Is the fix already in? No, they're sure trying. From the propaganda media angle, from the electoral angle, from state secretaries of state, from all these different things, they're messing with it as much as they can possibly try. But I don't think it works. I don't think it works this time. Stuff is so bad. I mean, if you just... Everyone looks at it as the last 3 years. Are you better off or not? And this reminds me, this, it's on my mind because I just watched the movie last night, but this is one of Reagan's things. Are you better the last 3 years than you were? This is one of his arguments against Carter. If not, you need to make a change. And at the end of the day, I think a lot of people look at it and say, I need to make a change because this is rough. We're in rough stuff here. So it's, yeah. What do you think? What else? Or is that about our...
I don't know. I'm just looking at these colorful maps now.
Yeah, the colorful maps
yeah,
is neat.
This is interesting. I didn't know about this website. Anyways, sorry. We're doing caucus. Yeah.
Caucus. But yes, this is really interesting to get on and start tinkering with it. If you flip Georgia and North Carolina, even if you flip, I mean, if you just leave it to the way that it is, we're sitting at 226 for the Democrats, 251 for Republicans. The 5 swing states: Nevada, Arizona, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Those are the biggies. If you flip Pennsylvania over, Donald Trump is at 270. He doesn't have to win the other 4. But if Pennsylvania goes blue, then he's got to pick up, at least Michigan and Arizona. He can't just pick up Michigan and Nevada. It's not going to work. Or does it? No, Michigan and Nevada puts him at 272. It's interesting to go and tinker. You should, because the Electoral College is fascinating. Do your history lesson on that this week. But yeah, the more I look down at each of these things, the votes that won the presidency the last 2 times, the last 2 cycles, what's going on right now. The Michigan, in case you didn't see a little rundown, Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson is threatening election officials at the local level. If you don't certify the election results, we're coming after you, she says. She's also refusing to take RFK Jr. off the ballot. Did you see anything about the Michigan bill that prohibits recounts? Because I saw a bunch of, oh no, that's fake news, don't listen to the right, that this Michigan bill prohibits recounts based on allegations of fraud. Did you go and dive into that at all?
I didn't see that. I saw that they, made it criminal to accuse, or like there were some sort of criminal charges surrounding questioning elections in Michigan now.
Right, and it's something. Of course, the AP has their fact check on it, and that the assessment is, oh, it's false. This does not prohibit such recounts. Yeah, thanks. I don't believe you. But this is why people are floating stuff around. I see here people saying the fix is in for Michigan because the Secretary of State wouldn't prevent dead people from being removed, or she prevented dead people from being removed. And sued, in fact. Governor Whitmer signed this law banning certain recounts on assertions of fraud. I don't think the fix is in. I don't think Trump even needs to win Michigan. I think really what this boils down to is Pennsylvania. Donald Trump in Pennsylvania matters. And I think that's what wins the election or not.
Yeah, I agree.
I think it's all Pennsylvania. That's the biggie. Do you know anyone in Pennsylvania? Make sure that they're registered to vote Republican.
Yeah, I know people in Pennsylvania. I know
I do
people
too.
in Georgia too. Talking to them, being like, hey, there's things you can do.
Well, and there's some interesting stuff. This is where, here, let's bring in the tools real quick. You want to know the tools, go to a couple of key places. First of all, truethevote.org has lots of really cool projects that you can get involved in. You want to know what you can actually do? Go to truethevote.org. They've got a vote alert system that you can get involved in, and really you can become a poll watcher. This is what we need more than ever, someone who watches and reports stuff, because a lot of this is going to end up having to be sued and settled in court. Mm-hmm. I mean, we know that that's going to happen, but they have an app, they have training to make sure that you can actually help safeguard this. They also have scan, check, protect. You can basically scan and check and look at your ballot. They have ways to talk about that if you're in a mail-in ballot state. There's the 611 Project, fighting back against non-citizen voting. This is a biggie this week. Congress isn't back in session until what day are they back in? I think they come back the late single-digit days. But the SAVE Act is a big one. You want to talk about non-citizen voting? The SAVE Act is one of those biggies that it's a bill that requires individuals to provide documentary proof. It demands that states require documentary proof of U.S. citizenship in order to register to vote. Now, in a lot of states, including here in Missouri, you check the box and say you're a citizen, but where's the enforcement mechanism? I checked the box, but no one is demanding my birth certificate to show, or my naturalization papers to show that I am a citizen and allowed to check this box. SAVE Act requires that, or else. And it sounds like Mike Johnson is going to hook that to the continuing resolution that comes up in September here. I hope he sticks to it and actually makes that a fine. Pass this or shut the government down. Because this should be a no-brainer. Non-citizens not voting, yeah, of course not. But it is, in fact, it's a big brainer. It makes a bunch of people very mad. But here it is. Turning Point Action is doing Chase the Vote initiative. You can go and look at that. That's at tpaction.com/chase the vote. And they're talking about ballot chasing, which is essentially all those mail-in ballots that have gotten sent out. Go and say, hey, did you fill in your ballot? Can I turn it in for you? You can sign, seal it. I'll deliver it. I don't like that system. To the point of everyone on, who's talking about this. I don't like that system. I want that system changed. But guess what? We didn't have the authority to change the system. Use it, do it better than Democrats so we win. Then we can start changing systems. Yeah. Otherwise, it doesn't matter.
Power first.
Power first. And there's another one, pachase.com is a biggie that's doing this as well. Or is it pachase.com? See if I can find this. Because there's another organization that actually has a lot of number. Yeah, the Pennsylvania Chase, pachase.com. They're talking about, when it comes to mail-in ballots right now, Pennsylvania Democrats are beating Republicans 80-20 going into Election Day. That's called running up the score before Election Day. That's why places like Pennsylvania Chase and ballot chasers over at USA were started. Basically, door knockers that are going and finding those ballots that have been sent out and making sure they get turned back in. So there's another one, pachase.com. You can either donate or you can find out how to actually help them if you're in Pennsylvania, because they are trying to go find those ballots, chase them down, and help get them turned in for people. Because the early voting is just what kills us. That's so heavily Democrat, and those are the votes that get counted later. And that's the problem. Those get counted later into the night, into the week, and then we just keep counting until they find enough votes to overcome a Republican victory. Yeah. This is the MO. That's what happens.
We have a question in the chat. Does it seem like the Democrats have more grassroots, get out the vote people on campuses and in communities than Republicans, or is that just how it looks in the media? I'd say, yeah, I do think that they're better at it.
They are. The Democrats are. It's a well-oiled machine.
I think they're better at coordinating between states, like getting people that can work in multiple states. Whereas I don't think Republicans have as many people that do that, that are as good at coordinating in lockstep together. But that doesn't matter. Like, you can still do something about it, especially if you live in one of these important states. You can make an impact. It's possible.
Democrats are very good at this machine by now because they have crafted and perfected it for years. They've been using this, doing this, making this their main method of running up vote tallies. We're coming from behind significantly. We, the right, are coming from behind on this, trying to manipulate, not in a bad way, just massage the system and figure out how to do it. We're bad at ballot harvesting. We don't want ballot harvesting. We have been bad on purpose. I understand that.
But that's silly. If that's how they're going to win, then that's how we got to win.
Well, and if that's how they're going to win dishonestly every time, then it will never give us a chance to honestly fix the system. We have to win. So, we're not talking about dirtying your hands and doing anything illegal or immoral. I don't like that the system is this way. It doesn't mean I can't use it this time to get in power and then change it.
Yeah, you have to win.
You have to win. Not compromising your principles, but you have to win. You have to understand what can be compromised. So yeah, I think Democrats really are, especially on college campuses and in different communities, they're way better at this than we are. We're coming from behind. Yeah. Which, though, is what makes it really curious to me to see what's going to happen this year with a few of these initiatives in a few key states. Going after legally the voter rolls, which they're doing, Nevada, Arizona, a bunch of other places. What did True the Vote was it True the Vote? Someone just sued all 15 counties in Arizona because they refused to clean up the voter rolls. So there's lawsuits that are going, and there's ballot chasing or ballot harvesting that is happening on the right. That combined with this, what I believe is an epic surge for Trump and an epic demoralizing of the left because Kamala Harris, and there's the biggest factor we haven't even talked about yet. One of the reasons I think that no, the fix is not in, this election is far from decided. Yes, they're going to cheat, and we must stop them, and we must use and game the system even better. But this is, in my mind, the most concession-minded ticket I've ever seen from Democrats. These are literally the expendables.
Yeah.
There's no political power or clout for the future here. They didn't pull out any of the big guns, any of the people who actually have high positives. I mean, they pulled out the cackling Kamala and waltzing waltz, literally, because he dances around and flaps his hands.
Yeah.
And one of the most bizarre displays.
He's a freak, isn't he?
These two are total weirdos.
Well, the debate,
and they don't have any policies.
The debate is coming in 5 days.
The debate is coming in 5 days, and he's going to wipe the floor with her because he actually knows issues.
Right.
You remember her? Does everyone remember her debate with Mike Pence in 2020?
Yeah.
I'm speaking.
Yeah.
I'm speaking.
Right.
Like, if she pulls that to Donald Trump, it worked. It kind of worked on Mike Pence. I hate to admit it,
but she lost that debate, and everybody knew
she lost that debate, and it was they couldn't pull together a way in which she won. But if she pulls that garbage on Trump, it's not going to go well.
Well, they've now agreed to having the mics muted. They've agreed to the same rule set as the Biden.
Yeah, they
debate.
said that, but we had the mics unmuted long enough for the great golf debate of 2024,
right.
which is still the most fantastic moment in my mind since any of the Reagan debates. That was it.
The argument over golf. That is what took Biden out. That was it.
Yeah, that was yes. He shouldn't. Yes, that was fantastic. But it's not going to work well because she doesn't know issues. She can't talk about stuff. And love or hate his style, Trump can freewheel for an hour and a half on just notes on a few pages, and he just goes.
Yeah.
Because he knows stuff about stuff, and she knows nothing about anything.
Right.
And
that's why
so
she
painfully obvious.
wants notes. I don't know if they agreed to the notes thing.
I just saw.
They may not have agreed to the notes thing, which that'll make it even funnier.
It's gonna be bad because I did just see. Let me pull this up here.
They should do sobriety tests beforehand. Breathalyzers.
Breathalyzers. Yeah, I don't know. The drug testing we don't need, but the breathalyzers might be an interesting thing.
Yeah, that would be funny.
But no, here. So where'd it go? They've agreed to the debate. Oh, here's my stuff. So here's the rules. Harris accepts the rules for the debate September 10, including strict mic controls. ABC Rules has announced, this was late yesterday, that Kamala Harris has accepted the rules, including the provision to mute microphones when it's not a candidate's turn to speak. Previously offered dueling statements on the media whether microphones should be muted. Yeah, but the notes is the interesting part here.
And Command F. Look for notes.
Well, I know how to do that. I'm just reading, though. There it is. Yeah, 90-minute debate will not include an audience. The candidates will not be allowed to bring notes onto the stage. Both will stand behind podiums and have access only to a pen, notepad, and a bottle of water. It almost sounds like prison, by the way. You get water, bread and water. Anyway, that was, by the way, one of my favorite Trump on some interview. I forget with whom. It was with a British guy. Like his New York came out this week in total, and he talks about, it sounded like some guy from the Bronx who owns a deli, and he's a first-generation American from, an Italian family, and he talks about, Barron doing this, and he's a good boy. He's a good, they're all my boy. I know you're not supposed to call him that, but they are. He's my girl. He's my boy. And he just went into this. I was like, holy cow, your New York is showing, sir. Yeah. But yeah, bottle of water. No opening statements will be made, but each candidate will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. Trump won a virtual coin flip and chose to deliver the final closing statement. Harris selected the right side podium on the broadcast. Why? Is there science behind right and left side in presidential debates that I'm unaware of?
Not that I know of.
Not that I know of either. And ABC noted that if significant eruptions occur, both candidates' microphones may be unmuted temporarily so the audience can follow the discussion. May it be, please. We greatly hope. We'll see. And then, of course, the VP candidates, Tim Walz and J.D. Vance, are slated for October 1.
Ooh, that's going to be a mess.
That's the thing. Tim Walz can actually put together sentences. It's just he has no policies to defend.
Yeah.
And J.D. Vance...
And Vance can really put together sentences.
J.D. Vance is one of the most vicious debaters I've seen in a while.
Yeah.
Like, he'll go for the throat. So for him to go after Walz is going to be really interesting.
He's like killing journalists.
He is.
They invite him on, and he just destroys them.
He's very good. That one's going to be a fun one to watch. But there you go. Maybe you don't find these things as fascinating as we do, but this year I think they're going to be consequential.
If people don't find the election fascinating, I don't think they're watching our show.
I agree. That's actually that's correct.
So we know you like this. That's why we're talking about it.
The big huge boost right now is the big huge boost is that Trump is speaking to a new audience that hasn't been spoken to by a Republican in a long time. And he's getting to them very effectively, and Kamala Harris's team just can't because she can't talk. So that's going to bring tons of people out of the woodwork, plus our legal efforts, plus our ballot chasing efforts. I don't see any way where the fix is not in. Far from it. I think Trump wins. The bigger question is what happens in January when Trump wins. That's a conversation we're going to have maybe with a guest in the next week or two, because that one is far more out of your hands than mine, and one that we're going to have to really lean on other people for.
Yeah.
So I think that's it, though. That is, yeah.
Caucus time is over.
That's a wrap. That's what I had on Caucus today.
Go to trexinc.com and buy shirts and buy hats now. You get some of that bed hair in the morning. You wake up, but you got to be somewhere quick because you were late. You know, you get a hat. You get a funny hat. Caucus 30 to get 30% off that awesome hat. And what else do we have? Unauthorizedcaucus.com is our Substack. Hit that green button on Rumble. We're not on YouTube anymore, right?
Yeah, we're on YouTube.
Oh, okay. Hey, YouTubers, if you're on YouTube, hit that big red subscribe button. Sorry, I forgot you guys were there.
Someone's asking, by the way, if we're live. Yes, we are live. Did you have a question? You feel free to ask your question. I see you're typing back.
I thought Caucus time was over.
Caucus, well, if someone has a final question, we can go into it.
Okay.
This is highly unauthorized.
Okay, yeah, I guess it is unauthorized.
Oh, a bunch of comments on the X live feed. You know what? There are comments on the X live feed now. Hold on. Pause. Wait a minute.
We're not done.
I have X Premium, and we're streaming over there, and it's a test, and I forgot to be watching it. I don't see any of your chats over here. They are not there.
I see no comments on the X live feed.
Me neither. This is, hold on, folks. We're going to figure this out real time right now, because we're playing around with X Premium and trying to see what it looks like.
Yeah, literally 0 comments on X.
There's nothing over here. This is interesting. I have no notifications of it. I don't know. We'll dive into this and figure it out, because I wouldn't mind using X as a platform more moving forward. Rumble, I think, is really a key, player of where it's at. But there you go, though. Keep an eye, unauthorizedcaucus.com. That takes you to our Substack. Make sure you can follow all the socials there. Sign up for the content there. If you'd like to become a paid subscriber just to support the work and help us get some upgrades and reach going, feel free to do that. Otherwise, everything is free, and we have no foresight of changing that at any point. Although, you never know. We may start doing, if we get enough demand for it, we might start doing some subscriber-only content on special things in the future. It might be pretty good. But that's, go and follow and make sure you're along for the ride on whatever it is. But we've got a couple.
Follow the recommended Substacks too.
Yeah, just not one. There's a weirdo one. Something about a decision hour. Not that one. I'm just kidding.
Make sure you follow me and Patriot Freedom Project
and Patriot
Ed
Freedom
Martin's
Project
Pro America Report.
And Ed Martin. And I need to do something with my personal Substack. We have, folks, there are too many plans and not enough hours. But we appreciate you spending this hour with us. I think it's an important one. I think we got a couple big ones. Aaron McIntyre, one of the Blaze hosts, we have him on the hook for an upcoming conversation here within the next couple of weeks, hopefully. So there's going to be some good stuff, and there's a lot of things we need to talk about in the next 60 days. We have 60 days until Election Day.
It's coming.
It's coming like a freight train. So until then, we hope you have a good week, and we will talk to you next Thursday at noon. It will be caucus time.
It's caucus time.
It's caucus time. All right. Have a good week, everyone.